So you make it to LA, you have to make ends meet in addition to pursuing your dreams. Did I read you were a phone operator at one point? Mm-hmm. What did that entail?
Well, okay. I mean, I had 2 phone operator jobs, if you will. I don't know what my sister told you. One, back in the day, they used to have 900 numbers, so for 99 cents a minute, you could talk to someone on different lines. There were sex, chats, and then there were also just regular chats. And I worked on a 1-99900 chat. So my name was Cookie. And people would call, people that wanted to talk to other people, but I guess in their normal lives didn't have a way to do it. So they would call, I would look at a computer screen and a number would light up, from Detroit or something, and I'd say, oh, hi, who's the new caller? It was a conference call, I guess, it's the best way to describe it. And people would talk for hours on these phone lines. And then once in a while, if you could put them on a private line together, they would both have to say, yes, I want to do that. And I would have to tell them, you're not allowed to have phone sex, because that's not what the chat line was about. But they did.
Any memorable conversations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a few. Well, what would happen is when you put them on the private line and you'd say, okay, you guys are not allowed to have phone sex on this line.
You would really have to say that?
Yeah. There were probably 3 or 4 monitors that worked in this one little room. And
you're how old at this time?
I was 20. I was probably 20.
Okay.
And they started having phone sex. We'd say, I got one. And then we'd turn it up so we could all listen in. And before we cut them off, because we had to cut them off at some point. This one time that we were listening, the girl says to the guy, how big are you? And he said, oh, I'm about 6'3". She goes, no, I mean, how big are you? And he goes, oh, I guess about 4 inches. She goes, okay, you're on the phone, you could at least lie about it. So that was one of our monitors. She jumps in and she's like, you're on the phone, you could at least lie about it. And then the 2 people are like, is somebody listening? I told you we were gonna listen. I told you you're not allowed to have phone sex. And then it just erupts into everybody's yelling, and the guy is like, it's bigger than 4 inches, I don't know. It's like, okay, you guys call back on the chat line. You lost your private privileges.
Explain your connection to the OJ Simpson trial while you're a bartender at the Intercontinental Hotel.
Well, okay, so that hotel is in downtown LA. And yeah, the OJ jurors were sequestered at our hotel. And they were on a certain floor, and you weren't allowed to go to that floor. And the jurors were not allowed to, read, newspapers or watch TV or anything. And there was one juror, in their window, they had etched, help me. Because they did not want to be there. They were there for a very long time. My manager had asked me this made me feel very important at the time, to pack a bag, because when the verdict came in, I needed to drive directly to the hotel and check in, so I could just work any job they needed, because they thought it was going to get crazy. And that's what I did. I think that was the first time I stayed in a fancy hotel. I was like, whoa. I'm in a however many star hotel it was. I felt pretty fancy. So yeah, it was interesting.
What did being Rob and Michelle Reiner's assistant entail, and how impactful was it for you that they would come to your shows?
Yeah. They were so great to me.
You guys are friends now?
We're friends now. I would do whatever needed to be done. I wasn't giving notes on the movie sets, I can tell you that.
And did not ask him for a job despite maybe urges to do so.
Right, you can't do that. Otherwise, who wants an assistant that's always asking for another job and to get you in the business?
That had to be hard too, because he's really successful in the business and here you are trying to break in. Actually,
it didn't feel that hard to me because he was in such a different stratosphere than I was. I think it would have been harder if he was maybe a casting director. That would be hard because every day he'd be like, I could do that, I could do that. What if I do that? But he was doing, making films, and I was in a different category. But yeah, I was at the Groundlings Theater. I was studying and performing, doing sketch and improv. And because the Groundlings Theater has such a great reputation, they would come to every opening show that I had, which was so, it was very meaningful to me. And my friends couldn't believe. They were like, why is Rob Reiner here? Because I invited him.